It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode is brought to you by HP Plus. In a world full of smart devices, isn't it about time your printer got smart too? Now printing is smart with HP Plus, and the HP Smart app is how it all happens. You can print from your phone with just a tap, no matter where you are, even from your garage/home office/yoga studio. Huh, that is smart. HP Plus. Learn more about smart printing at hp.com/smart.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Scott Cullen, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by Locker Room. Locker Room is the first social audio platform made for sports fans. The app is free to download. Once you're in, you can talk with fans, athletes, and insiders in real time about your favorite team or sport. Today's episode, we're going to look at some streaming options and two-start pitchers for next week. We'll dig deep on the waiver wire, have some injury updates, and matchups and DFS value plays for Friday. But first, let's take a look at some of the action from Thursday's games. And first up, look at Arizona center fielder Ketel Marte. Was 4 for 5 with a run scored and an RBI in a 7-4 loss in Milwaukee. Marte is hitting .375 with a 1027 OPS. We talked about him earlier in the week that he really struggled in 2020, and you might have some question about his value. He's back hitting at an elite level and probably not getting a whole lot of notice for it. So Ketel Marte, he missed some time with injury too, but when he's been in the lineup for Arizona, he's been really productive. Minnesota third baseman Josh Donaldson was 3 for 5 with a pair of home runs, scored 3 runs in a 6-5 loss at Kansas City. Donaldson has 7 home runs, hitting .250 with an 813 OPS. I'd say a bit disappointing to this point, but at this stage, Donaldson being healthy enough to stay in the lineup is an ongoing challenge. So you kind of have that lingering over him. Probably for the rest of his career at this point. Kansas City catcher Salvador Perez, 2 for 4 with 2 home runs in the 6-5 win against Minnesota. The second straight game in which Perez has had 2 home runs. He's now up to 14 home runs on the season, hitting .284 with an 848 OPS. Perez is already one of the more valuable catchers because he plays so often. But if he's going to slug home runs like this, he's going to be right up at the top of the board before long. Tampa Bay second baseman Brandon Lau, 2 for 3, scored 3 runs in a 9-2 win against the Yankees. He's still only hitting .196 and a 684 OPS, but he has some home runs and can steal a few bases and hits high up in the Tampa Bay order. So the counting stats are there, and if that batting average comes around, Brandon Lau could have some real value. Also for Tampa Bay, DH Austin Meadows, 2 for 5 with a pair of home runs, and 9-2 win against the Yankees. Meadows is on a good tear right now. He's up to 14 home runs. His batting average has climbed to .244. It was down in the low 2s like a week ago, and he has a 900 OPS. Tampa Bay got a complete game out of Ryan Yarbrough. It's their first complete game in like 2 years. So he went 9 innings in the 9-2 win at the Yankees, gave up 6 hits, no walks, 2 earned runs, struck out 6, and Yarbrough's number, he's got a 3.95 ERA, which is probably a little high for fantasy. His 1.14 whip, that'll play. But his 7.2 strikeouts per 9, it's not great. And so he's kind of on the fringe of fantasy if you find the right matchups. And I'm not sure you would have expected that, yes, a game at Yankee Stadium was the right matchup, but it was for Yarbrough on Thursday. Yankee starter Garrett Cole did not fare so well. He went 5 innings, he had 5 hits, 2 walks, 5 earned runs. Struck out 7 in that 9-2 loss. His ERA has climbed up to 2.26. His whip is 0.87. Still has 12.4 strikeouts per 9. Like the underlying numbers are all solid here for Garrett Cole. But through the first 2 months of the season, we had him ranked as the top pitcher. He is probably not holding that rank anymore. Boston starting pitcher Martin Perez went 7 2/3 innings in a 5-1 win at Houston. He gave up 6 hits, 1 walk, no earned runs, struck out 4. Perez is having a heck of a season. He has a 3.09 ERA and 1.23 whip, both of which play all right in fantasy. And his strikeout rate is 8 per 9 innings, which is not great, but it's a career high for Perez. And so I think there's, at the very least, you can use him as a streaming option with favorable matchups, but he might be okay to have as sort of a back end of your fantasy rotation too. Colorado right fielder Charlie Blackmon, 3 for 4, home run, 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs, an 11-6 win against Texas. We're still kind of waiting on Blackmon to get to his typical production. He has 4 home runs, hitting .262 with a .769 OPS. Now he's 34 years old, so maybe we're not going to get a typical Charlie Blackmon season, but you always kind of keep your fingers crossed that he can continue to hit the way he has for so many years. Colorado's starting pitcher in that game, Austin Gomber, went 6 innings. He had 3 hits, no walks, no earned runs, struck out 6. And Gomber, he's got a 4.12 ERA, but it's been steadily coming down from the start of the season. Has a 1.14 whip, 9.4 strikeouts per 9. That's enough to put him on your fantasy radar. And again, maybe he's somebody you stream with favorable matchups, or maybe he can fill in at the back end of your fantasy rotation. Atlanta second baseman Ozzie Albies was 3 for 4, scored a run, drove in 2, stole a base in a 5-1 win against Washington. Albies has 5 stolen bases, hitting .251 with an 820 OPS. Still waiting on that average to climb a little bit more, but the fact that he can hit for power, if he could get you double-digit steals as well, Albies, can be a pretty productive player. We just like to see him hitting a little bit better than .251. Pittsburgh left fielder Brian Reynolds was 2 for 3 with a home run, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored, and a walk in a 5-3 win against Miami. Reynolds is up to 8 home runs on the season, hitting .289 with an 889 OPS. Pretty nice bounce back for him. White Sox starter Lance Lynn went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 walks, 1 earned run, struck out 6 in a 4-1 win against Detroit. Lynn is rocking a 1.23 ERA, which is ridiculous through 10 starts. He has a 0.92 whip, 9.7 strikeouts per 9. I think, I wouldn't expect the whip and ERA to remain that low, but I expect the ERA to climb higher than the whip. He might be able to stay a little bit closer in that regard, and the 9.7 strikeouts per 9 is probably not a much of a reach at all. Cincinnati left fielder Jesse Winker was 3 for 5, hit another home run, 2 runs scored, 2 RBIs, and a 4-2 win at St. Louis. Winker's up to 14 home runs this season. He's hitting .348 with a 1044 OPS. There are very few players who have provided better value this season than Jesse Winker. And one more hitter of note was San Francisco shortstop Brandon Crawford. 2 for 4 with a home run, 2 runs scored, 4 RBIs, and a 7-2 win against the Cubs. Crawford is up to 12 home runs, hitting .255 with an 873 OPS. And the home run power is probably not sustainable. There's plenty of reason to have doubt about that. At the same time, if you need to plug in somebody in your middle infield, or you've already done so with Brandon Crawford, you've picked up some serious value. And I guess a note here is Seattle moved Jared Kelenic down to 5th in their batting order. He was 0 for 3 and struck out 3 times in a 6-2 win at the Angels. Kelenic is hitting .107. He has a .415 OPS. They moved J.P. Crawford, the shortstop, into the leadoff spot, but maybe hitting 5th will sort of change the outlook for Kelenic. You got to try something, because for every flash of power or stolen base speed that you see, you're still looking at somebody who's hitting .107, and you can't keep rolling it out that way every day. So when we come back, we'll look at streaming options and 2-start pitchers for next week. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season's in full swing, and you can track all the action at BetOnline. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for all your sporting needs, and that includes Major League Baseball, but the NBA and the NHL are in their playoffs. We've got PGA and all your UFC MMA action. Before the next pitch, head over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device. Check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. This is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their runs to the playoffs. Head to the website, betonline.ag, or use your mobile device to sign up today. Receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Use promo code LOCKEDON at BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. I've been talking a lot about sports trade lately. If you haven't heard about it, it's where fantasy sports meets the stock market. It's no wonder this company is blowing up. The site is really amazing. I can't believe nobody else has thought of this concept before. Sports Trade truly takes fantasy to the next level. Their platform allows you to buy and sell shares in your favorite players, just like real stocks. It's a fair and super exciting way to cash in on your knowledge of sports. And they just added baseball to the platform, so check it out today. Making money with Sports Trade is simple. Player values rise and fall based on two factors. One, their performance in each game compared to their projected fantasy points in that game. The more points scored, the higher the player's value goes. Two, supply and demand. The more shares that are purchased in a player, the higher their value goes. You can instantly buy and sell as many shares in as many players as you like, just like the stock market. Then, watch your players battle and your portfolio value rise. Simply go to sportstrade.com, watch the How It Works video, and then sign up to get started. Sign up today at sportstrade.com. Discover the fun, exciting, and profitable new world of sports trading. This is truly the evolution of fantasy sports. I really think you'll be amazed. Don't sit on the sidelines any longer. Get in on the action at sportstrade.com. All right, so let's take a look at some players you might want to stream for next week, players that have favorable matchups and are available. And so we'll start with Cincinnati infielder, second base and third base eligible, Jonathan India. The rookie has 3 home runs and 3 stolen bases, hitting .242 with a 708 OPS, and so these aren't huge numbers. But if you need somebody to fill in an infield spot, the Reds are at home against Milwaukee and Colorado, and Cincinnati is one of the better hitter parks around Major League Baseball, so India is not a bad option there. The Dodgers left fielder, A.J. Pollock, just activated from the injured list. Dodgers are at Pittsburgh and at home against Texas. Pollock has 4 home runs, hitting .277, has a 791 OPS, and certainly the issue with Pollock, one, is whether he can stay healthy, but if we presume he can make it through next week, he has a chance to give you value. He doesn't run the way he used to, but he is an above average hitter, and with favorable matchups, it could be worth a shot in your outfield. Milwaukee, shortstop Willie Adames, has, in a dozen games with the Brewers, he has 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, hitting .286 with an 851 OPS. Big improvement on what he did to start the season in Tampa Bay. The Brewers are at Cincinnati, as I said, favorable hitters park, and then at home against Pittsburgh, which is favorable for hitters in general. So Willie Adames, probably worth your consideration in a middle infield spot. Oakland, second base and outfield eligible, Tony Kemp, getting some playing time because of injuries. Is the A's are at home against Arizona and Kansas City. Kemp's hitting .279 with an 800 OPS. Doesn't put up huge numbers. He's hit a couple of home runs, stolen 3 bases. But if you need a fill-in, Kemp can probably help you out a bit there. Now let's take a look at some 2-star pitchers. And there aren't a ton of great options, so that, my first 2 are probably guys who may already be rostered. But Houston's Framber Valdez, who has started a couple of games so far this season. He suffered a finger injury in spring training, and it looked like he was going to miss most or all of the season, but he ends up missing about 2 months, and in 2 starts has a 1.64 ERA and a whip of 1, 11.5 strikeouts per 9. He's at Boston and at Minnesota next week. He's worth having on your roster full time. Toronto's Robbie Ray, probably in the same boat. That the fact that his command has improved as much as it has this year makes Ray a reasonably reliable option. He still gives up some home runs, but the walk rate is much better. He has a 3.57 ERA, 1.14 WHIP, 10.7 strikeouts per 9. Now, not the easiest matchups next week. He's at the White Sox and at Boston, but still worth having Robbie Ray. Cubs, Adbert Alzolay. Now, here's somebody who's a little bit more readily available. Has a 3.62 ERA, 0.92 WHIP, which is great, and 9.5 strikeouts per 9 in 10 starts. He's at San Diego, which is kind of tough, and then at home against St. Louis. And given the numbers that Alzolay has put up, if you're looking, to stream a pitcher, he's worth grabbing. And Kansas City's Chris Bubic, the lefty, has a 2.12 ERA, 1.27 WHIP, 7.4 strikeouts per 9 in 8 appearances, 4 of those being starts. And the Royals are at the Angels and at Oakland. Not terrible matchups, and if Bubic can kind of continue what he's done, one of the real successes for him so far is he's been able to keep the ball in the park, and avoiding the long ball has helped him put up some good numbers. So when we come back, we will take a look at some matchups and DFS value plays for Friday. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, and they have 9 delicious flavors. Plus, they occasionally have limited time special flavors as well. But they're standards. You can get coconut and coconut almond and cherry and raspberry and mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, and salted caramel. And my favorites are the peanut butter brownie and salted caramel. But if you haven't tried all these flavors, you can get a mixed box from Built Bar where you get 2 of each of those 9 flavors. You sample them and kind of decide which ones you want to order after that. And not only are the bars delicious, they're covered in 100% chocolate, but they're good for you. They have a lot of protein, low calorie, low sugar, low carbs, and because they're covered in chocolate, they kind of taste just like a nice snack. You're not, forcing yourself to eat it. It just tastes like a bit of a treat. And so go to BuiltBar.com. Use promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your first order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com.
What's up, everybody? David Harrison here of the Locked On Washington Football Team podcast. I actually just retired from the Army, and while that was a very exciting moment in my life, it also meant uprooting my family one last time. And not only that, but we moved in the midst of COVID, so finding the place that we really wanted to live wasn't as easy as it usually would have been. So we actually have moved a second time, and of course, every time we've had to wonder, is all of our stuff going to fit with our new house? Did you know that people who live in cities move 6 to 8 times before they even hit their early 30s? That's why you've got to check out Feather. Feather is a furniture rental company designed for people who want to feel at home no matter how often they move. Furnishing one bedroom can cost upwards of $6,000, but with Feather, you can furnish a bedroom with high quality, beautifully designed furniture for the cost of your monthly utility bill. Their delivery team brings furniture directly to your home in as little as 7 days. They handle all the heavy lifting so you can go from an empty apartment to a fully furnished home without lifting a finger or assembling anything. And it's not just furniture. They have rugs, lamps, wall art, and more. What if you move to a new place with a different layout? No problem. You can easily get furniture that works for any space. Plus, by renting from Feather, you're choosing a sustainable alternative to fast furniture that won't end up in landfills. I remember vividly having to take time off of work or away from family events or social events that I wanted to attend just to wait for several furniture deliveries coming at different times throughout the week, but you don't have to go through that anymore. Try a new way to furnish your home right now. Feather has an exclusive offer just for Locked On listeners. If you go to livefeather.com right now and use the promo code Locked On, you'll receive $300 off your first month. Again, that's livefeather.com and use our promo code Locked On for $300 off your first month.
So now each episode I offer up one player that is rostered in 10% or fewer of Yahoo leagues, and maybe it's somebody you need to race to the waiver wire to get, or just somebody to have on your radar and be ready to pounce when the time is right. And so after the Brewers acquired shortstop Willy Adames, we talked about him in the last segment, they moved Luis Urias into a utility role, and now he's played some second and third base as well. And in the past 17 games, Urias has 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, hitting .298 with a .978 OPS. Now, he's a .226 career hitter with a .667 OPS, so I'm not ready to expect Urias to be a star hitter for the long haul, but at the moment, he's providing some infield value. And if you need somebody who has positional versatility and is swinging the bat all right and might get a little bit of playing time, Urias is rostered in just 5% of Yahoo leagues. Now for a couple of injury updates. San Francisco starting pitcher Logan Webb has landed on the 10-day injured list with a shoulder injury, and that's tough because Webb was really trending in the right direction. After a couple of tough starts early in the year, he was really putting some things together, and now he's going to have to recover from this shoulder injury and hope that he comes back just the way he was before he left. Maybe the Giants move Nick Tropiano in for a spot start. We'll see how they sort this out. Colorado third baseman Ryan McMahon has a groin injury. Josh Fuentes started in his place on Thursday, but it doesn't appear to be a serious thing. But we'll see how many games he misses before passing full judgment on that. Miami starting pitcher Eliezer Hernandez suffered a quad injury in Thursday's start. Again, we'll have to wait and see how serious that is, whether it's going to cost him future starts. And then Milwaukee second baseman Colton Wong suffered an oblique injury Thursday, which that opens up playing time for Luis Urias, coincidentally enough. So if Wong misses time, that is just another opportunity there for Urias to play. So now, when we look at the matchups for Friday on betonline.ag, there aren't a ton of matchups that I like specifically, but there are a couple of interesting ones in terms of the head-to-head matchup. So like the Philadelphia Phillies are at home with Zach Wheeler on the mound against the Washington Nationals and Max Scherzer. Like that's a pretty great pitching matchup. And even Tampa Bay sending Josh Fleming against Texas's Kyle Gibson. Fleming's got a 1.69 ERA. Gibson has a 2.24 ERA. Now he's come back from the injured list, but maybe that's not expected to be a premier pitching matchup, but based on their performance so far this season, it kind of is. Really, if I'm picking a game where I like the value, I don't mind the Mets with Joey Lucchesi on the mound, plus 164 at San Diego, because Blake Snell is going for the Padres, and he's been rocked in his past couple of starts, giving up 12 earned runs in 6 1/3 innings. I don't know that you expect Lucchesi to put up a great game for the Mets, but if he's reasonably competitive and keeps them in the game, you never know whether the Mets might connect on Snell and knock him out of there. So getting Lucchesi and the Mets at plus 164 makes a little bit of sense. So thanks to betonline.ag for those odds. Let's grab a few DFS value plays before we go. Miami starting pitcher Cody Poteet, the rookie, is $6,600 at Pittsburgh. Really, we're just picking against the Pittsburgh lineup. Poteet has been surprisingly effective, I'd say, in his handful of starts for Miami. I don't know how sustainable it is, but I also don't mind taking it against the Pirates lineup. Baltimore first baseman outfielder Ryan Mountcastle's $3,300 going against Cleveland. Cleveland's running Giancarlos Mejia as an opener in today's game. So if it's a bullpen game, Mountcastle at $3,300, not bad value. Philadelphia second baseman and outfielder Brad Miller, $3,600 against Washington with Max Scherzer. Miller's 5 for 10 in his career against Scherzer with 3 home runs. So I don't know that you can count on a 10 plate appearance sample to determine the real value, but maybe Miller has Scherzer's number a little bit. Pittsburgh third baseman Ke'Bryan Hayes, been activated from the injured list. He's $4,100 going against Miami and Cody Poteet. And really, if somebody on that Pittsburgh lineup is going to do damage, Hayes would seem to be the best candidate. Baltimore outfielder Cedric Mullins, $4,000 going against Cleveland. As we said, Cleveland's running Giancarlos Mejia, who's making his first start as an opener. And that's an opportunity for Mullins, the leadoff guy, to continue putting up good numbers there. And Boston outfielder Alex Verdugo's $3,300 going against the Yankees. The Yankees have Michael King making the start for them. So that will do it for this week. Enjoy the games. I will be back Monday. Check out the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast too. The playoffs are here and rolling along. So check these podcasts out on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you get your podcasts. Stay locked in with Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily source for fantasy news and analysis. Today on the Locked On Today podcast, an embarrassing exit for the Los Angeles Lakers. Get more of the sports news you need in less time with the Locked On Today podcast. Follow the Locked On Today podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts.